Hello, my name is Shulamit, and I'm the creator of the MetaSounds process. Every Sunday at noon, I host a Zoom meeting for us to explore wisdom teachings and experience the healing power of MetaSounds. These meetings are made possible by generous donors. Please help this site thrive by liking and subscribing, and please join our newsletter at greatoctave.com to receive notices of our events. Welcome, everyone, on this beautiful sunny day, at least in the East Coast. Today, I want to talk to you about accessing the spiritual life. From the time we're born until approximately midlife, we're very involved with taking care of the physical business, providing for our homes, our shelter, our food, our retirement, our children's educations, our families. And of course, the society is also very invested in that, particularly the society that we live in which the physical manifestations, the proof of your success is the amount of goods that you have and how many square feet in your house and how thin you are and so on and so forth. But at midlife, this becomes less engaging because it's a natural process to begin to access this aspect of our nature which is not in the realm of the material. You may not get much support in looking for this because this is not something that people necessarily understand. If you can't touch it and you can't feel it and you can't describe it, then, maybe what use it is. The maxim, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be open, which is a teaching of Jesus, is actually completely and totally true. It is the aspiration of your heart, not something that you necessarily even have to vocalize or get support from your neighbor. It is the aspiration, the longing from your heart, which is heard, observed, and supported in the other realms. So when you begin to seek with a whole heart, you may stumble and spend years wandering around trying to find either the right teaching or the right people or the right community or, just the right setting for you. But nevertheless, you are on the path. And that path ultimately leads to some answers. The path is strenuous. And again, because it is not necessarily understood, can be pretty lonely. Even if you join with others on a similar path, you have to confront your own particular demons, your own misconceptions, your own love of your own identity, and which is also part of the material construct that we make, the love of your narrative, your story. You're going to have to deal with all of these things to come to a much clearer understanding of what kind of person you really are. What is beneath all of that accommodation that we make in order to get along, go along to get along, right? We all do it. So it's hard, but there are rewards. Now, the key thing, like everything in life, is to keep your eyes open because there's just as much flim-flam and con artistry, if there's such a word, among those people who are proceeding along a path There are people who are trying to take advantage of that, either to make money off of you or to fulfill their needs for power. And they can be misleading and they can be very destructive because sometimes you put your faith in people who aren't worthy of it. So you have to keep your eyes open and be sure that the people that you get involved with are sincere. And to always be observant, skeptical, honest, doubtful, forthright. I mean, all the tools that you need to survive in the material world are also important for this passage, this path. But again, if you are sincere, you will find your way to the thing that works for you. And there are many, many paths and many disciplines and many practices tested throughout centuries and centuries of work by spiritual seekers. Now, during the course of our lives, even before we get to midlife, I mean, midlife is kind of an arbitrary, point of departure that I selected. But all of us have had disappointments and frustrations and sorrows and catastrophes and trauma. And when that happens, even if it happens when you're 12 or 15 or 5 or 20 or 25 or whatever, when that happens, you question what it is you're doing in your present life, what you believe in, and you have a desire to transcend your suffering. I mean, this is normal. I mean, some people transcend their suffering by drinking too much or taking drugs. But if you're not inclined to that thing, to that kind of course, you're basically looking still to transcend your suffering and to gain an understanding of why there is suffering. Why is it that we can work so hard and have the thing that we love taken away from us? Why is it that we can devote all our attention and all our concentration and all our hopes and have it sometimes blow up, or not so much even blow up, just change so it doesn't intrigue us anymore? Or it doesn't seem to have the same value that we thought it had when we first started out. All of these normal or regular events that occur in our life lead us to these kinds of desires for awakening. But when you get to midlife, again, an arbitrary place that I've chosen for today's talk, when you get to midlife, assuming that you have actually been successful in achieving some of the things that you set out to do when you were 20 or whatever, when you first started out in the world, it even becomes more sincere, your desire to have more, to maybe not more of the same, because you've already done that. And as Jung describes very beautifully in one of his essays, when you reach midlife, a lot of the things that you work to build overtake you. Your children grow up and leave home. Your businesses or your other endeavors take on their own life and they don't need you anymore, or you don't really feel that entranced by the whole thing anymore. You're just tired of it. So all of this, when life begins to taste not as sweet, when you really don't know which way to turn, when you're everything that you did before, even diversions, whether it was streaming videos or playing golf or whatever, when these diversions don't satisfy anymore, there's this longing that comes up. And we want to attach to our higher nature, to our spiritual nature. And it's not out there in some other realm, it's in us. You're really looking to capture your entire being, not just that part of you that's the animal part of you. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying, but the part of you that looks for simple pleasures and satisfactions in food and sex and rock and roll or whatever. There's another part of you that is joined at the highest level, that spiritual part. And once you begin to really want it in your heart, because if you describe it to your friends, they may say, what are you complaining about? you have such a nice house and you have such a nice family and you have nice cars and blah, blah, blah. And there isn't anything more. People tell you that there isn't anything more than our physical life. But this is, in my experience anyway, not the case. There's a lot more. And it's very, very rich and abundant and satisfying in a way that the material, which is also rich and abundant and satisfying, but the difference is that one is long-lasting or eternal and the other is transient, because we all have the possibility of losing the things that we love. Not only the possibility, the probability. Even if you don't lose them, you get old enough and then, your connection to them withers and then you come to die and it's over. So it's not, you really want to feel that you're part of something greater, that you're not just, a leaf in the wind. So again, it's the longing of the heart which says, I want this, and ask for help. And the help comes immediately in different forms, depending on your inclination. It can come in the form of angelic support that you can see. It can come in the form of an opportunity. It can come in various forms. But if you keep your nose to the grindstone and you keep your goal in front of your eyes, despite setbacks, despite the fact that you may not be supported in what you're trying to do, you can achieve great things. I'm talking about satisfying things that make you happy, things that support other people and are healing and kind, not because you're necessarily going out to be, a person who works in those fields, but because that's who you are. That's who you are. You've developed to the point where your humanity, your compassion, your sense of purpose here on this earth shifts from taking care of your personal needs to connecting yourself to the greater reality, because you're part of that, regardless of whether you think of yourself as an independent person who doesn't really need anybody. You still are connected to everything that exists, and you have great capacity. As people talk about wealth a lot in this country, billionaires, trillionaires, oligarchs, whatever. But I just want to point out that there is a difference between wealth and abundance. I mean, wealth obviously can buy you a lot of things and a sense of, luxury items and beautiful homes and great views and etc., and protect you from many of the perils of life, not all of them. But you don't need that kind of money to feel very, very wealthy. You can feel abundance when you know that you have, if you are fortunate enough to have enough to take care of your needs, food and shelter and so on, that you have gratitude for what you do have and for the gifts that you do have. And you feel this connection. And you feel a sense of purpose coming from this connection, that you have a specific role to play here on earth. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to get written up in the New York Times or profiled in a magazine. But it has a very specific purpose, whether it's feeding people, if you're a cook or a gardener, or, you're providing a service. And there are lots of services which are essential for our comfort, which are provided for by other people, So it's not a question of, the nobility of your work where other people can look at it and say, oh, wow, look at what they're doing. In fact, people respect, in my experience, silly things. If they think you have a certain kind of profession, they can give you inordinate respect. And you yourself know that it's not really that important. It has nothing to do with anything, really, except that you're able to make a decent living, And then if you're somebody who pursues their own path, an artist or so on, and you're not as valued by the society, people will look down on it and say, why aren't you taking care of business or whatever? So it's not so important what is told to you. What is important is for you to feel the abundance of your being here on earth in connection with a lot of other people who you love and who love you. And you have an abundant life. And it isn't about the amount of zeros on your paycheck. So it's a worthwhile endeavor to pursue a spiritual path, to open up that part of you that's yearning, to not to try to shut it down and to say that it's stupid or not realistic, but open up to it, open up to its possibilities. You don't have to abandon your regular role. You can still take care of business. It's not denying that. But open your heart to it, because a person who ages without that connection is not a happy person. They're still filled with regret and sometimes bitterness and wishing things were the way they were. Well, if you live in the present moment, which is really a spiritual understanding, to live present to your life in the moment that you have. Cultivate the moment, you cultivate the future. Not to linger in the past for what you can't correct or take back or redeem, but to live present. There's just a lot of beauty that comes from it. So in addition to everything else, it is a natural process. It does come naturally with aging. And when that happens, you have to be careful not to sit on it and not to try to stop it. So remember again, as a simple soul, without necessarily anything particular to offer in commerce or the arts or whatever, let's say just as a simple soul, you have a connection to the greater reality through your heart and through your yearning. Everybody yearns to be part of something greater and to take away the sorrow and the suffering of what life can be on earth, how difficult it can be. So there is a path forward. So remember that. It's your simplicity, it's your heart, it's your voice, your inner voice, your outer voice that can bring about this kind of happiness. So I'm going to make some sounds now, and as usual, I ask you to receive and be comfortable in your space, keep your back straight, feet on the floor, and just receive. Thank you for joining me today and being part of our community. I invite you to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Time for the full live experience. Wishing you a wonderful week, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Visit greatoctave.com for more details about these webcasts, our newsletter, donations, and more.